Hey everybody, Moses here. Just a quick reminder that the giveaway for this month is for the PC37X headset. Easy to enter, the link is down in the description, and I hope you win. If you're competitive in games like Overwatch, PUBG, or Rainbow Six Siege and are looking for an advantage with sound, check out the PC37X gaming headset from Massdrop. The PC37X is a custom gaming headset designed with comfort and performance in mind. The plush ear cups and headband in combination with a crystal clear noise-canceling microphone makes marathon gaming sessions a breeze. Check out the link in the description below and get instant shipping from Massdrop today. Hey y'all, Moses here. Today I'm here to talk to you about the Hunter in Realm Royale. This guide is going to cover all the different skills and traits that you can select for your Hunter and talking about why it is the most overpowered class in solo Realm Royale currently. Everyone plays Hunter and for good reason. So with that said, let's get started. So right out of the gate, just give you a quick intro about the class. The Hunter is probably the most all-around overpowered class in the game currently, hinging primarily on the fact that its primary legendary weapon is extremely powerful at all ranges, and the Hunter also has some of the best secondary traits that you can use as far as staying alive and staying mobile on the ground. So first, let's talk about the Hunter and its passive trait, which is a 10% reload buff and a 10% weapon swapping buff. Not going to make much of a difference since your longbow is going to be primarily used as a weapon, and you'll be switching maybe now and again if you need to use a shotgun, which I think is the better secondary choice to go with the longbow. Anyway, so the active skills that you can choose from are the Flare, which reveals enemies in a radius around the flare, so good for spotting enemies inside of buildings, around trees, or wherever you think that they might be. They have a Blast Shot, which is a direct damage projectile that damages areas in a small radius, and is good at the higher tiers like Epic and Legendary, but depending on what kind of style of game you're playing, you may want to use something more along the lines of Withdraw, which is essentially an evade where you leap backwards a small distance and go invisible or stealth for a short amount of time. Now, you can prime your longbow while stealthed, so it's a very powerful ability to line up shots on an aggressive enemy who is attacking you because you go completely invisible, they can't see you, and once you come out of that, you just land a quick bow shot and follow up. You also have the proximity mine, which is a kind of a favorite of mine because it's something that a lot of people just don't pay any attention to, unlike the sentry gun with the engineer. You can throw this proximity mine on the ground, and as an enemy gets closer, it'll do damage. At the legendary tier, it does 500 plus damage, which is a big boost to initial trades if you're trying to get the edge on an opponent. And it has a relatively low cooldown, so you can throw it a lot. And then finally, just touching on the primary movement ability, it's the dodge roll. Again, a fairly low cooldown, but relatively limited in what you can use it for. It's good for covering distance back and forward, side to side strafes, etc. It'll launch you a small distance, and at the epic tier has a very low cooldown, so you can be rolling all over the place. Not the best movement ability in the game, but definitely can be useful for gaining ground or getting away from your opponents. So now that we've talked about the skills themselves, it's time to talk about selecting skills depending on the different game modes. So if you're in solo, my personal favorite is to go for the Trap and Evade. The Trap is very flexible as a secondary source of damage. If you're getting peeked repeatedly by somebody, you can keep throwing the mine on the ground where they're peeking, and they'll have to jump out and deal with that trap because it does have a decent radius, so you can throw it a little bit further away from the corner, so if they want to get away from it, they have to go around it, or if they just forget about it, they're going to take damage, and then you can land a bow shot. The second would be using the Withdraw skill. That Evade and Stealth is very, very helpful, especially if you're taking too much damage or need to reposition or just give yourself enough time to land up a bow shot. The Evade is very useful, especially at the higher tiers, and you can just whip your camera around and evade towards enemies to gain distance or side to side. It takes a little bit of skill to aim your Withdraw, but it is a skill that all good hunters are going to need to learn. So Trap and Evade are my go-to. You can use the Blast Shot instead of the Trap if you do want direct damage and don't really want to have to worry about placing your mines. The one reason I do suggest the Trap is that because it's such a secondary issue when facing a hunter. I've faced a lot of hunters, so I've been hit by a lot of traps because I'm so worried about the bow and that direct damage that I sometimes just forget about the trap. And you can leave it behind too. So you can leave it behind in a forge or around choke points and just kind of confuse or annoy enemies and use up their health potions. So it's an interesting tool to use, but I think evade is a pretty solid choice all the time in solo. As far as duo and squad is concerned, you can basically pick whatever you like. I think the flare is probably the weakest hunter skill, but it does have its place. In duo, I would still want to go probably trap and evade or blast shot and evade, depending on what you want. If you want to go full damage, just kind of play around with whatever you like. But essentially, in a duo pairing, if you're playing with an engineer or an assassin, which is a popular combination, you want to be doing as much damage as possible. So either the blast shot or the trap, and then the evade is just a really strong choice all around. So talking specifically about the hunter's strengths. Now, this is super easy, but it's also important to note that the hunter hinges very heavily on their legendary weapon, which I think is the strongest one of the game. So the strengths of the hunter are the massive damage from the legendary bow, 1,000 damage a shot, which can't be beat. It's very quick to draw the bow. It has a fairly high fire rate, very accurate at long distance, high projectile speed, and is just the best, in my opinion, legendary weapon in the game. The hunter also has good mobility on the ground and can engage effectively, essentially at all distances. I like to pair the legendary bow with a shotgun, legendary obviously being the preference there, because you can, land a bow shot, roll towards your enemies, and then start harassing with a shotgun. Throw that trap, throw the blast shot, and if things go poorly, just evade, become invisible, and run away. Line up another bow shot, and that's that. So hunters are extremely deadly. You have to work your ass off to win a fight against a hunter, even a moderately skilled one. Now, talking about the weaknesses of the hunter, which there are few, the hunter has low vertical mobility, which can be problematic against warriors and engineers, but you'll probably be fine. You've got the best weapon in the game, and engineers, once they leap on you, trying to get those grenade shots, they are sitting ducks up in the air, and you can line up bow shots relatively simply because they're just, they can't do anything but shoot at you with the grenade launcher. And then warriors are kind of in the same situation. They're a little bit faster, and once they get up close, they can be a big threat with that throwable axe that they have. So really with warriors, you want to get the opening shot as best you can. But for the most part, and since I'm already talking about this, let's just talk briefly about what the hunter is strong and weak against class-wise. The hunter is strong against everything. Literally every class in the game can be relatively easily dispatched by the hunter. A skilled hunter is very difficult to deal with for any class. And I would say for a weakness, the primary threat to a hunter would likely be an engineer. The barrier and the sentry gun would be an issue. They also have the healing totem, so they can recoup from damage during a fight relatively quickly. But for the most part, the engineer has to be very skillful in placing their barrier and really keeping you away from them and kiting you with that barrier, dealing with cooldowns. It takes a lot of effort to win against a hunter. I would say the warrior would be kind of a threat, but like I was just mentioning, they don't have the barrier. They do have that shield they can throw on themselves. The net shot will slow you down, but that's a skill shot they need to hit. They also need to stay mobile. They can charge on you. But if you have line of sight on any target, you can easily hit bow shots. And once those, you only ever have to hit 2 and then maybe follow up with a third if they have max health and armor. The primary threat would be the engineer and hitting your shots. The biggest threat to the hunter is the hunter itself. If you can't hit shots, it's going to be a problem. But if you have the bow, you're in good shape. So just the last bit on how to play the hunter effectively. The first and only thing you need to worry about is get your bow, and then the rest is kind of gravy. Once you have that bow, you're a wrecking machine, and try and not take too much initial damage, and you'll be golden. I'm still learning the hunter. Obviously, we all are still learning the game and trying to get masterful at it. I'm on my way to the master rank, but if you have any comments on how you play hunter or what you found effective, just leave a comment down below. I'd be really interested to see it because I'm definitely needing more practice as a hunter. Leave a like if you like the video, and don't forget to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/wtfmoses and on Twitter at wtfmoses. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you out there.